I think technology is going to continue to evolve, right? Faster than we're ever going to see it. And we're already seeing it happen with outside of this accounting space. But if anything, all technology is doing is it's enabling you to be more human to human. And people are worried that technology is taking away their jobs, it's taking all this kind of stuff. But the reality is what technology is doing is taking away the grunt work of your job. And actually is really giving you the ability to add value and do the things that you're really good at.
Welcome to the Alphapreneurs podcast. I'm your host, Rayhan Aleem. I'm also the founder of AlphaPro Partners, a bookkeeping business based in Dubai, and Taxstar, a tax technology startup automating corporation tax returns. Join me on each episode as we talk to inspiring Dubai-based entrepreneurs who share their stories, challenges, and secrets on building world-class businesses. I'm pleased to have Zubair Mohammad on the Alphapreneurs podcast today. Zubair is a marketing strategist and previously helped 𝗧𝗎 scale to become the UK's leading accounting software. He's now advising accounting firms and fintech startups scale across the UK and the UAE. He has also worked for the likes of Dext, 𝗬𝗎 and Capitalized. Beyond consulting, he's also the co-founder of the Accounting 𝗭𝗭𝗋 and the Counting Room, a private members community for accounting firm owners based in the UAE. Zubair, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me today. You're like one of my other guests. You've made that transition from being an employee to an entrepreneur. And the Alphapreneurs podcast is very much about the story on the entrepreneur, how they became an entrepreneur and what pushed them to through that journey. And for you, it's similar to Ayman. Ayman was, I think, on episode number 3. So you used to work for 𝗧𝗎. Can you give us a quick introduction about yourself, what you was doing pre-entrepreneur and what you do now?
For sure. Thanks for having me. So I'm Zubair. I'm the founder of a marketing consultancy where I work with predominantly accounting tech providers and accountants to help them grow and scale. I also co-founded Accounting 𝗭𝗋𝗋, which is a event and now a community that we run here in the GCC for forward-thinking accountants, CFOs, and people in the finance space. I guess a background on me, I left university, did a degree in marketing, left university and was like going out to find a job, and leaving university just after the financial crash was hard. Fell into a role at 𝗬𝗎, which is one of the UK's biggest accounts production businesses, really long-standing. I started working in the accounting sector. I don't think anybody leaves university or goes out and says, hey, I'm going to go work with accountants my whole career.
Excuse me.
but I started my journey there. And I really got to meet lots of accountants, understand that the impact the accountants have on the economy, on small businesses, on this whole world. And spent a couple of years there learning about this industry and had the opportunity to then go and work at 𝗧𝗎, who had just launched in the UK.
So you was there at the very beginning?
Yeah, quite early on. It's really funny. I remember the moment I decided I wanted to work from 𝗧𝗎. For anybody who's been on this journey for a long time in the 𝗧𝗎 ecosystem, there was a video of Arthur the treehouse builder. Go look it up on YouTube. It's a really great video. And I remember watching that video and being like, wow, this is such a different way to talk about accounting software. And then luckily, almost 6 months later, I got the chance to go work with the guys at 𝗧𝗎. And I spent about 5 years at 𝗧𝗎, and we grew that business exponentially in the UK. I also had a chance to go to South Africa to go and help launch the business there. And we had amazing growth in both those regions. And I really got to connect with not only accountants, but small businesses and had the opportunity to sit down with them and really hear their story. And it was so inspiration to see how people had taken that leap, that faith to say, you know what, I'm going to go on in my own. I'm going to go run this amazing thing. After that, I went and worked at a bunch of fintechs in London and around that kind of vicinity where, again, we were working really close with the SMB sector. And I've always had a close connection with small businesses. I come from quite an entrepreneurial family. So my grandparents used to have a really big steelworks in Kenya.
Oh, wow.
They used to manufacture iron and steel and all this kind of stuff. So, entrepreneurship's kind of been in my blood. But obviously, as time goes on, people go into employment and stuff that happens. And I always knew there was an inkling inside me. I always knew there was a thing I had to go and do by myself at some point. And I kind of have end up where I've ended up.
I want to go into 𝗧𝗎. So how big was Xero? Just to give some context of how they've grown. When you joined Xero, how big were they, and how big were they? Where did they grow to when you left?
So the UK team, like headcount wise, I think was about 40 or 50 people.
Oh wow!
When I joined in the UK, super tiny like individual functions. So like the marketing team was 2 or 3 people. The sales team was 5 or 6 people. I think globally we were 100 or something people at that point. Now I couldn't even tell you how many Xeros there are in the world. I think there's thousands. I saw a picture from 𝗂𝗂𝗯 Brisbane the other day, and I was like, wow, that's an amazing amount of people in Xero t-shirts. So yeah, they've had exponential growth over the last 10, 12 years.
Yeah, and you also mentioned something about the way Xero market. You mentioned that they're not like a traditional accounting software technology company. They have a different way of marketing to businesses and accountants. And I guess a lot of your philosophy, a lot of your DNA in marketing came from that. Do you want to talk about some of the things that they would do that you're now advocating as a business?
Yeah, so I think I reflected on this a few days ago, was when Xero came to the UK, we were kind of breaking the status quo, right? Like as accountants, you guys were very used to a desktop solution, a very specific green software on a server in your office, and that was the status quo, and that's what everybody did. Xero came to the market with something that was quite revolutionary in that era, the whole idea of cloud accounting, and we talk about hosting data in the cloud, and we think about that today. We're all very used to it, where we've got Google Drive, and we've got Dropboxes, and we've got all these kind of things. But 12 years ago, it's such an alien concept. We didn't really even have YouTube, was not even that popular yet. Instagram was bubbling. Like there was stuff that we take for granted today was just starting up. So they came to a market with a product and a way of doing stuff that was very different. And actually, I think with that philosophy of like, we're bringing something different and revolutionary, they kind of threw the rule book out the window. And actually they said, there are no rules on how we go to market. There are no rules on how we have to speak to accountants. There are no rules on how we speak to small businesses. Actually, what they decided to really adopt was this H2H, a human-to-human philosophy, where actually they look past this corporate facade, and they look past this is how corporates talk, and this is when you're selling a B2B solution, this is how you talk and how you have to operate. And they just said, hey, we're selling this solution to humans for other humans to make other humans' lives better. And I think a lot of that came from the kind of mentality from New Zealand and the kind of culture that they brought with the product. But I think that's always stuck with me. And actually that human-to-human element of sales, that human-to-human element of B2B sales and marketing is something that I use across everything we do now.
And I can relate to that because, I run an accounting firm and I work with a lot of clients, and a lot of these clients are first-time entrepreneurs. Sometimes entrepreneurs are obsessive on doing Google ads and SEO and posting AI-generated content on social media, when actually they should go out there and meet people in person and, show people who they are to be able to sell their products and services. And it's refreshing to learn about how Xero approached that, when they were growing their business back in the day. Another thing I want to touch upon is the fact that you mentioned 12 years ago, you had the adoption of cloud. And now we're going for a new revolution, which is AI. I went to a CFO AI conference the other day, and, they were showcasing some of their products. A few of them were OCR. OCR has been around for a long time, where OCR meaning you take a receipt, you scan it, and it pre-populates all the information for you, goes into your accounting system. But there was a lot of interesting things from a reporting point of view. So the AI will pull the data from your accounting software and it will produce the reports for you, give you the insights without you having to go through all the different, variances and edge cases, and you can read that report with the help of AI. Now, with that revolution now coming into play, how do you see this new wave of AI kind of, reinvigorating, revolutionizing the accounting software market?
I think technology is going to continue to evolve, right? Faster than we're ever going to see it. And we're already seeing it happen with outside of this accounting space. But if anything, all technology is doing is it's enabling you to be more human to human. And people are worried that technology is taking away their jobs, it's taking all this kind of stuff. But the reality is what technology is doing is taking away the grunt work of your job. And actually is really giving you the ability to add value and do the things that you're really good at. You touched on OCR, right? So before you'd sit there and you'd type out hundreds of receipts into a spreadsheet and then you'd put them into a ledger and whatever you do. OCR technology has eliminated all of that. So now all of a sudden, as an accountant, as a bookkeeper, you've freed up so much time and space in your day to go and do other things for your clients. And again, with this AI reporting stuff, it's taken away you having to pull a balance sheet, a P&L together, a forecast from over here or whatever, and sit there for hours analyzing the data. It's going through that process for you to then say to you, well, I'm presenting you everything. I'm helping you analyze this. So then you can go and add value to your client and say, this is what the data is telling us, faster than you could ever do that before, which then enables your client to go and make decisions that they couldn't have made faster than ever, which gives them the opportunity to go and grow their business faster than ever. So everything has a chain reaction. And I think the technology and the AI that's coming out is just enabling us to move faster than we've ever moved before and take advantage of opportunities faster than we ever have before.
You obviously use AI in your business because you've given me some tips as well. So how has it revolutionized the marketing, the advertising industry? I mean, we have a lot of listeners who are also from that industry as well. So how has that affected you and how you've been able to service your clients and, give them better insights, give them better tools to be able to bring in more revenue?
We're able to look at how stuff is performing much faster. So, there's trends that pop up on social platforms, there's algorithms that are constantly changing. And actually before, you were kind of playing a bit of guesswork with the algorithms. You were kind of saying, well, this is kind of working, this isn't really working as well. But now what you're able to do with AI is that you're really able to analyze the data way faster than you ever were before. And you're also able to take other people's information, analyze their data to then help you make more informed decisions and actually then go back into the algorithms and work on stuff faster than you ever have before. But also what it's enabling you to do is to test faster as well. So when you're posting on social platforms, you can test different variants of the same message much faster than you could if you were writing each post one by one by yourself. I don't know how true this is, but I read something a little while ago about how on Stephen Bartlett's podcast, 𝗪𝗫𝗂𝗪𝗫𝗂, how they test messaging and how they test hooks from the podcast in real time online. So while they're recording a podcast, they're taking snippets, publishing them, seeing how the audiences they want to go after are reacting, and then feeding Stephen lines to use in the next questions. So, I mean, that's super fast and technology is enabling them to do that. Whereas, before they'd record a podcast, create it, publish it, launch it, wait 5 weeks for some information. But in that time might have recorded 5 other podcasts and not have any data around it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's amazing what you can do now with AI. So Zubair, you have a business where you're working with customers in the UK as well as the UAE. You work with accounting firms in the UK and in the UAE. And you also work with tech firms, fintech companies, tech startups who also service accountants and small businesses in the UK and UAE. So one thing that I would be interested to know is, what are the key differences that you see in terms of the way companies operate? Not just from a operational point of view, but also from a sales and marketing point of view for accounting firms and also tech firms. And can you give us some examples of what, when you've had like an aha moment with some of these companies? Yeah,
for sure. So, let's touch on the tech companies to start with. Let's start with tech businesses. Tech business accountants are quite different. So tech businesses are really interesting. In the UK, the tech market is a bit more mature. We're talking about SMB technology, that kind of stuff. And it's mainly because we've had a compliance landscape for a long time. So the technology companies know what the compliance landscape is, and the SMEs know what the compliance requirements are when they're having to submit stuff to HMRC or whatever it might be. So over the years, the tech companies have become more and more transactional in that space. So people now are just looking for solutions that solve a problem that they have. So if they need to submit tax to HMRC, they will just go and download a product or buy a product off the shelf. They're happy to do that. They're happy to be self-served on that environment there. what we find here in the UAE is that same legislation, that same kind of compliance landscape is only just evolving here, right? We've only just been through the first cycle of corporation tax. We're about to go into e-invoicing, and that VAT has been around a little bit. But tech businesses here, are still not ready to go and grab hold of tech. And you're obviously seeing that with Taxstar, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're not just going out and being like, right, I need a tax solution. That's one I can use. Great. Push my stuff through it. Happy days and go through that. There's still a bit of a lack of trust in technology from a compliance perspective because they don't understand it. Saying that, there is also a difference in adoption. So people are happy to go out and get some stuff they want to, but what we have, and that's taken time to happen in the UK, is adoption has taken a long time because of the, I guess, aging population and the ways that we've always done this. And I always use the example of money in this space. So in the UK, we went from gold to cash to checkbooks to then cards, and we've kind of been on this journey to transitioning to banking at your local bank to then chip and pin, etc., etc. We went through this whole kind of journey of financial transformation from a consumer perspective, and internet banking is relatively a new thing if you mobile banking. Whereas in societies like the UAE, they've gone from cash straight to mobile banking and paying on your phone with Apple Pay, Google Pay, whatever. So the adoption of stuff, once people understand it, is way faster in this part of the world. It's just they don't know what to go and get yet, and they don't know what they need is a big difference. And that's where the relationships are a little bit different. So people in the UK would be quite transactional. They go and buy products quite freely online, whereas in the UAE, what we're seeing is that more businesses who need software and going out buying software are looking for a relationship with the vendor because they really want to understand whether they trust them or not and whether they're going to be because we haven't had this for a long time. We haven't had businesses arrive in the market, fail in the market, leave the market, or businesses come and succeed for a long time in the market. Everything is very new. So people are not that trusting at the moment. So they want to build a relationship with this vendor before they go and use their solution.
Yeah, that's a great point.
From an accountant's perspective, it's quite interesting because it's almost the opposite. So accountants in the UK have very much guarded relationships for a very, very long time. And you'll understand this, having firms on both sides, is having a client relationship in the UK is quite an expensive thing to bring a new client on board, right? From a go-to-market, bring a client, onboarding, etc. It costs a lot of money to get a client on board. So having that solid relationship and having that harmonious relationship with a client is so important. Whereas what we find in the UAE is that onboarding clients is relatively inexpensive because the labor costs are cheaper here, the rents are cheaper here, offshoring is more prevalent here. So, and also clients who are coming to accountants here originally weren't coming for the compliance, the submission, that kind of stuff. They were more coming for internal bookkeeping and internal accounts just to help understand what they're doing in their business. So there wasn't a real need for the accountants to over-service their clients. It was more just like, hey, just do what I need you to do. Great, thank you very much. Quite transactional to some extent. Yeah. Whereas the UK accounting sector is very, very advisory-led, very relationship-led. We are seeing that shift start to happen here in the UAE. Where we're getting the compliance come into it, where we're having accountants having to have discussions with their clients about, okay, well, this is your corporation tax liability. What do we do about that? How do we make that more efficient for you? You've got e-invoicing coming next year. How do we start to prepare for that? How do we make sure you've got the right ASPs in place? How do we make sure your business is in the right financial situation? You've got the right technologies in place that you're going to need. So we're starting to see the accountants here really focus on the relationships and say, okay, well, how do I come into your practice, into your business and become a part of your financial transformation?
Those are really great insights. And it's really interesting to know where we're at both sides of the coin from a technology point of view, tech companies and, an accounting servicing point of view as well. I think from a UAE point of view, we are starting to catch up with the rest of the world. Yep. I don't think people come here and think we're no longer 20 years behind some of the emerging economies. I think we're now probably 5 years ahead because we're very adoptive on digital applications and processes. You've met a lot of tech founders. You've met a lot of accounting firm owners as well. I want to flip it more towards the actual owner, you know, the entrepreneur that you've come across. How have they differed between the UK and the UAE? I find that in the UAE, the tech entrepreneur is a little bit more cavalier. They're a little bit more, you know, they want to take risks. They want to really grow the business very fast. I haven't been to the UK for a long time. I mean, I moved almost 9 years ago. So my perception of the UK typical tech entrepreneurs, they tend to be a bit conservative unless you're a massive tech titan, right? And the accounting firm owners, again, they tend to be a bit more conservative in the UK, whereas in the UAE, everyone's jumping on the bandwagon. They see that this market is is growing in the accountancy space. So there's more and more accountants who are practicing as an accountant, setting up their own business. Yep. How have you found that kind of shift? What kind of insights can you give?
Yeah, like I say every time, like I'm back and forth between here and the UK, like almost monthly. And when you land in Dubai, there's a different energy. There's an energy of opportunity. And I think that's driven by the infrastructure that's available here. It's also driven by like the belief that the government puts into the space, the expansion, and everywhere you look around you, there's growth, whether that's buildings going up, schools opening, hospitals, highways, whatever it might be. Everything is about growth here. So I think when you land here as a tech entrepreneur, you come with the same mindset. And I was having dinner with some friends last night, and we were talking about how Dubai's land of opportunity. And actually, everybody who's here to some extent is maybe not here to live the rest of their days here, but actually they're here for a period of time to better their lives. And that's whether you are a tech founder, whether you're a partner at PwC, whether you're a taxi driver, whether you're a delivery guy, whatever it might be. Everybody's come to Dubai with an ambition to better their lives and do something better. So I think that mindset across every single person who you meet in the street, in the taxi, wherever it might be, kind of like gives everybody energy, which then makes people more cavalier, right? And with everyone having that same mindset here, it means that people are more likely to collaborate. People are more likely to help each other out. Like networking and go to networking events is very different in this part of the world than it is in like Northern Europe and in the UK.
How about in the UK? How does it compare to the UK?
People here are, and I was talking to a friend who's setting up a business in the UAE from the UK coming across, and his business partner had never been to the UK before. And we were talking the other day, and he said, we'll call him Dave for this example. Like, can you tell Dave like what the UAE is like, what to expect? He's never been there before. And the thing I said to him was that everybody's there to better their lives. Everybody's there to do better, to grow, to make their lives better, their family lives better, whatever it might be. So every conversation you're going to have, everybody you're going to speak to, there will be a level of value exchange. People will talk to you because they will think, how can I gain value from this person in what I'm doing? But also, how can I add value to this person? Because there's a chain reaction of value continuously. And I think that's a super like interesting thing that's happening here. Whereas if you look at networking events in the UK and Northern Europe, and a lot of the time it's just about being there, showing up, to some extent hiding what you're doing. People are so open here with what they're doing, and people share a lot more than I expected the first few times I came here, to be like, wow, people are very open book about what they're working on, what they're doing. They're not very secretive, because actually they're saying, if I can open up what I'm doing to you, there might be somewhere you can fit in to do this, and we can grow, and we can take a journey together. So that's the main difference.
You don't find that in the UK where people are a bit more open?
I think the UK is going through a very interesting economic challenge at the moment. So actually people are tightening their belts a little bit. People are being a bit more conservative about how aggressive they are with growth. And it's not to say people aren't aggressive with growth. There's definitely business out there growing exponentially, doing amazing things. But I think people are looking over their shoulder. And I think that then makes them feel, doesn't give them the bullish attitude that you probably need for high growth businesses. I mean, when you look at global high growth businesses, and they're very, very bullish in how they go out to market. They take big risks. And I think when you're looking over your shoulder, it's quite difficult to take a big risk.
Okay. No, that's a very interesting point you've raised. I've got a question for you as well. Silly question. Why do you love accountants?
Why do I love accountants? Why do I love... Do you know what? Because I genuinely believe accountants have a massive impact on the economy and the world that we live in. And I was explaining this to somebody the other day and it was like, a small business owner is going to go to an accountant, or a business owner goes to an accountant and says, I need your help. I'm trusting you to help me run my business. Good. Seems very logical, like business to business transaction. But what we don't see is how that trust relationship is also the accountant saying, so the business owner is saying, I'm also trusting you on putting food on my table. I'm trusting you to pay my employees. I'm trusting you to pay my employees who then need to feed their children or go on holiday or buy a house or do whatever. So the accountant has such an important role that actually they're so integral to an economy, a community, wherever it might be. So I think we overlook that a little bit. I think we just look at accountants as, oh, they're the guys who submit my tax return, or they're the guys who do whatever. And yes, there are some accountants who just do that. But I think the real accountants who are out there, the guys who are working with founders, working with business owners, working with CFOs, and like really getting into the business, saying, how can we add value and how can we make your business flourish so the economy can flourish? So people can go and buy a new house, buy a new car, take their kids on holiday, whatever, which has a circular effect on the economy, which then goes back to the other point, which then makes the tech founders more bullish to go and build new products, to go and deliver new services. So it has a cyclical effect on the whole economy.
You know, great point. So Zubair, you have worked with a lot of entrepreneurs. You've worked with solo founders. You've worked with tech companies. You worked at very large companies, Xero, Iris, just to name a few. And your role as marketers to help grow their business and increase top line revenue ultimately. Now, we have a lot of entrepreneurs who listen in to our podcast, and many entrepreneurs are quite new to the journey in a sense that they are setting up their business for the first time. They're probably good at a specific skill, whether it's IT, marketing, accounting, could be opening a restaurant, for example. From your point of view as a marketer, what do you think is the number one thing they should focus on in the first 6 months of their business to kind of get the revenue in? Obviously, marketing is a massive, subject. You could do, paid ads, you could do social media, you could do, you could do radio ads, you can put newspaper ads on, you could do branding as well, you could do YouTube videos. But for you, if you were to advise an entrepreneur their first 6 months on what they should be doing and what they should be doing right for them to get that first kind of revenue in the door so they can get that encouragement to continue that business and to keep growing, what would that be?
So I think it almost starts before that first 6 months. And I say this to everyone I work with, and I say to every single founder, accounting firm, tech, whatever business I work with, get to know your ideal client. Really, really get to know them. And I don't just mean like, cool, we're going to sell to, tech businesses. No. Get to know them. You really need to get underneath your ICP, your ideal client profile. Understand every single pain point they have. Understand how their businesses operate. Understand who the decision makers are. Understand the way they want to consume information. What information they like to consume. How they consume it. All of that stuff. Because if you don't understand your customer in and out, and you don't understand where they want to operate and what they do, it doesn't matter what tactic you use. It doesn't matter whether you go and spend $1 million on radio ads. It doesn't matter whether you go and spend $1 million on paid ads. If that's not the right place for the audience and the types of businesses you want to go after, it's a waste of time and effort. So do that first. Really get into it. Go and talk to them. Go and spend time with them. Go and understand them. And that's one of the things I'm really passionate about. So across my whole career, and working with accountants, I spent so much time in accountants' offices, just sitting, like doing my own work, but sitting in that environment to kind of understand how the business functioned, to understand, okay, how do client managers work? How do the bookkeepers work? What does a partner client manager relationship look like? How does all that stuff work within a working practice? Which then enables me to be better when I go and try to sell a solution to an accounting firm. When a tech business says, hey, we want to sell to accountants, I know how the firm works. I know the decision-making processes. I know how they consume information, how they go through that process internally. So before you do anything else, just get to know your clients really, really well. Not only will that help you create the right content, whether that's Facebook ads, whether that's LinkedIn ads, white papers, checklists, whatever that might be, it also helps with your products and service development. So you'll then be developing services for the problems that they're actually having. And you have to look at your products and services as twofold. I call them paracetamols and vitamins. Some things founders and business owners are looking for when you're selling them products are paracetamols. They've got a problem, they've got a pain, just fix it. And that's all they need. And there's some things that are the vitamins. Some things they know they need. It's good housekeeping. It makes them feel good over a long period of time. But the reality is no one really takes the vitamins, but everyone eats a paracetamol when they need it straight away. So how do you then start to think about your product set like that? That goes back to the pain points they're having, their long-term ambitions, and you can help build and develop your products and services like that. But also your messaging then fits into that. So how then do you nurture businesses through that journey as well?
So suppose I know my customer profile and I've figured out whether I need to alleviate their pain or help them, have longevity or, help my customers with my vitamins. What is the one thing you would recommend founders do as they grow their business from your point of view? Now, this is a very generic question, obviously, because it could be any business, right? And, B2B is the way you would market a B2B is different to B2C, for example. But what advice would you give? So they figured out what their customers are and what they need and where to go. For you, what would be the most important thing that they do?
So I think in the kind of more founder-led businesses, the kind of space that we operate in a lot is be connected to your customers. And this goes back to that human-to-human approach that we talked about before, is how you be on a human level with those guys. And a lot of that will come from your personal brand and who you are as a person and how you interact with the audience and interact with those people. Whether that's a LinkedIn profile, whether that's a Facebook profile, whether that is a TikTok account, whether that is appearing at events, whatever that might be, make sure you've got that personal brand built, because at the end of the day, people will buy from people. And a really good example of this is, and I only really reflected on this a couple of months ago, was before the whole popularity of personal brand, all this kind of stuff, Gary Turner, who's one of the founders and MD UK, MD of Xero, had a phenomenal personal brand in the accounting and tech space because he spent so much time on the road, visiting accounting firms, in their firms, attending events, going on whatever he needed to go on, because he was connecting directly with the audience, the accounting firms that wanted to buy Xero, wanted to be on that journey with us at that time. And I think that had a phenomenal impact on the adoption of Xero. And people were buying from him. People were buying because, Gary's here, he's talking to us, he's engaging with us, he's doing all that kind of stuff. So I think people had an affinity to Gary. And the same with Rod, who was like the main founder. People had an affinity with these people. The product behind them kind of just backed them up also.
Yeah, no, that's great. Great insights in that. I think that's especially true for accountant founders as well. Yep. I find that there's a lot of accountants who set up a business and they stand behind their staff. They're not really present with their clients. Yep. And I think they miss an opportunity in a sense that when you build that relationship, yes, you may have 200, 300, 400 clients, but there's no harm in answering that email or, being able to meet with them or have a coffee or lunch or dinner with them, because I think that's important as a founder-led business and being present. And I think that draws parallels to exactly, what you said, in a sense that ultimately they're buying from you. There could be people who don't want to buy from you, which is fine, but there's plenty of people who will buy from you.
And there's a reason, right? There's a reason why people came to you. There's a reason why they decided that I'm going to entrust you, and we talked about this earlier, I'm going to entrust you with my business. I'm going to entrust you with my children's inheritance. I'm going to entrust you with the payroll of my employees. There's a reason they did that. And if that reason is more than just you were the cheapest on the market, and I think that's a whole different problem. But if they've come to you for a reason and said, Rehan, I want you to look after this. I want you to help me build my business. Then that's way more important than the compliance submission you're going to do, the way you're going to, get them the right 𝗵𝗿 ASP or whatever it might be. Actually, they're looking at you to saying like, how are you as a person going to help me as a person do something? And if you can't be bothered with that relationship, then actually you're just going to lose those clients over time. And if your clients don't have that relationship with you, then maybe they're not the right clients for you. Maybe you're not adding value to those clients. And if you think about it from an economics perspective, and we talk about technology taking away the grunt work, etc. As soon as the grunt work stuff is taken away and the SMEs can do that by themselves, and they can to some extent today, receipt capture, bookkeeping, SMEs can do all that by themselves today. If they can get rid of all of the grunt work, almost you become invaluable. And if you're not providing extra value, then you're losing clients and your practice is shrinking.
Yeah. And I also want to go into more accounting firm owners as well. Accountants obviously don't come from a marketing or sales background. They're back of the office, processing invoices, doing payments, preparing P&Ls for their the owners and stuff like that. So when an accounting firm, when an accountant sets up a firm, and I get this a lot. I have a lot of accountants ask me questions about marketing and how I grew my firm as well. But what would you say? We've spoken about the entrepreneur, generic entrepreneur, but now let's talk about the accountant who sets up an accounting firm in Dubai or in the UK, for example. What would be your advice to them? Would it be the same? Would you get them to do something slightly different? How would you help them? How would you approach that problem where they've just set up, they've got 1 or 2 clients, but they want to grow to, some may want to grow to 1,000, some may want to grow to 100. What kind of advice would you give them?
So the first thing would be, don't think about yourself as an accountant anymore. You're an entrepreneur. You need to shift your mindset, because I think a lot of people who go and set up their own accounting firm still think about themselves as an accountant. And as accountants, your job is to advise small businesses day in, day out on how to grow, how to go and expand, do whatever they need to go and do. You kind of need to drink your own Kool-Aid a little bit if you want to go and do that. So first, you think about yourself as an entrepreneur. Think about your goals, your ambitions. Think about why you did this. What's your why? Why have you gone out and done this by yourself? Are you just trying it? Is it just a fad? Is there something behind it? Is it to have better work-life balance? Spend more time with your family? Is it because you want to go and provide new jobs? Is it because you want to work with someone? What's your why? Really harness that to start with. And then we go back to understanding the clients you want to work with. And then go and be where your clients are. If you want to work with tech businesses, there's no point you having an office in Jumeirah, right? If you want to work with tech businesses, fintech businesses, you should be in DIFC. You should have an office there. You should have a presence there. You should be at every single possible event that's going on there. You need to become synonymous in that community, right? What can you do to become synonymous? So go and be where the clients are that you want to work with. Go and interact with them. Go and engage with them.
So do you think they should niche when they start off with?
Niching is a super interesting topic. It comes up a lot when accountants talk about it. And there's some really, really good people out there who do a really good job at helping accounting firms niche. 𝗪𝗔 𝗪𝗿 is a really good example of that. Not being an accountant, I have a slightly different opinion, same opinion, but I have a kind of angle to the opinion where niching isn't just about industry. You can niche in a bunch of different ways. So, you could say, and businesses also don't realize they've niched. So accounting firms, don't realize they've niched until they look back and say, oh, we actually have a niche where, it can be, I want to work with tech businesses, or I want to work with influencers, or I want to work with whatever. But actually, sometimes you realize that I like to work with kitchen table businesses who operate at home. That's about what industry they're in. I like to work with businesses who are Series A, Series B only, because I like that journey that they go through. I'm good at that. I can help them do the fundraising. I want to work with big multinational businesses who are multi-jurisdiction. That's cool. That is still niching to an extent. It's just the way you look at it is a bit different. But I think, again, when you're starting up, you really understand that where you can add value. Think about the clients out there. Think about what your skill set is and say, where can I add the most value to these businesses? Is it, and if I've come from a tech background, how do I go and do that? Like, do I work with just tech businesses? If I've come from a creative background, do I go and just work with creative services, agencies, or whatever it might be? Think about where you provide the most value, because that's where you're most needed. You're not needed to do grunt work anymore. Technology is taking away the grunt work.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. You've obviously done your marketing agency is niched as well, right? So you focus mainly on accountants and fintech, technology owners as well. How have you found that journey, you niching as a marketing agency?
Yeah, and I think it goes back to where I could add value. I think I asked myself when I first, I went on this entrepreneur journey, I thought, well, I've worked at fintech businesses, accounting tech businesses. I worked in more traditional businesses in the ERP space. And I was like, well, I can help businesses. And I kind of went to market and I said, well, hey, I do marketing, go to market, I can help you. And the world was too big. And I couldn't talk to enough people. And I couldn't get around, and you kind of get lost in the noise. And I said, well, hold on, let's rewind a little bit. And I went back to myself and I said, what am I good at? Where do I add value? And what do I know the most? And, I'm good at helping people go to market, be scrappy, think about those first few 100 customers, get out of the blocks, test and learn really fast. Where do I add value? In the accounting tech space, in the SMB space is where I add value. And what do I know really well? I know the accounting space really, really well. So, okay, let's go and focus there. And I've spent years sitting in accountants' offices. I've spent years being around small businesses. I have small businesses in my family. Like, I know those pains. I know the fact that people sit there on a Thursday night and they're going through a spreadsheet trying to figure out how they're going to do payroll tomorrow. Like, I've seen those pains. I've seen people who sit on a dining room table with cash and divvying out into payroll and trying to figure out what tax liability is on it because they've got workers in like blue collar jobs that they have to pay tomorrow morning. Like, I've seen that pain. I've seen people think about it. I've seen the fact that where entrepreneurs don't pay themselves, people don't take a wage because they can't afford to take money because they have to pay an employee or whatever it might be. So I was like, I've been there. I've been in those shoes. I've seen it happen. I've seen it develop. So why don't I go into that space? Like, I know that.
Great insights. You and Ayman, I think both of you have really come into this region and rejuvenated the accounting industry, for me anyway. And, you've done that through co-founding Accounting Refigured, where you and Ayman created two amazing events for accountants, which are of very high quality, almost at the same quality as the Xero events.
We're trying.
And you've now kind of added a new element to it, and that's more of a community for accountants. And we have some communities, but it's fragmented. But I mean, I'm part of that group, and I see all of the questions and that some of the accounting owners have put out there, and some of the answers that we're able to share. And I think that's created a lot of value within the accounting industry in the UAE. Tell us about why you did that. How has it benefited accountants? What are your plans with Refigured and the Accounting Room?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Accounting Refigured almost came about by accident. Ayman moved out here and started Scope, and we were just talking one day about how the industry here felt a bit behind where the industry was in the UK that he left behind, and how education was a big problem. And the accountants, because they hadn't been through this compliance landscape yet, didn't really understand why technology was an important part, of their firms. And we're in a region where we're so close to the subcontinent, to the Far East, where outsourcing and labour costs are, lower than they are if you would look in the UK or other kind of like Western markets. So actually, technology didn't really make sense for people because they didn't really understand the value of it. And we realised that there was an education gap for the accountants. where, and on the flip side of that, we also realized there was an education gap in the accounting tech space and the SME fintech space, where those businesses didn't understand how the accountants could be a route to market for them. We see that in the UK, for example, lots of the tech businesses use accountants as resellers, to use a better word, for whether that's expense cards, whether that's payments, whether that's, whatever it might be. The accountant is almost a reseller of that solution. It adds value to the client and it adds value to the accounting firm, but in essence, they're a reseller. So we thought, well, if the accountants are on this side, they don't understand technology, and the technology is on this side, they don't understand accountants, then maybe we should be bringing the two of them together in one place. So we had a conversation over WhatsApp in November 23, and in March 24, we launched our first event. We had almost 100 accountants in the room who paid for tickets. We were very clear that this wasn't going to be just another fad event, another networking, another meetup. We really targeted this at the CFOs, the partners of firms, and we made sure, the people at the top of these firms who were making decisions really understood what was happening in the region, what was changing. We had some amazing sponsors, global sponsors come and join us, which was great. And what we saw at that event was really kind of nostalgic for me. We talk back to the early days at 𝗭when we started this journey off. There was this community of accountants in the UK that really set the bar for what the industry has gone on and done today. And, we talk, the likes of 𝗵𝗁𝗁 𝗵𝗁𝗁, Stephen Paul, Alex Falcon Herrera. We talk about Sharon Pocock, all these guys. They were the really early adopters of 𝗭and cloud accounting.
These are guys who owned accounting firms, right?
So they were accounting firm owners, but they grasped technology with both hands. And they said, this is what we need to go to future do. But they didn't work against each other. They actually worked together and actually helped each other and actually had conversations, built their firms individually, but together. And at that first event, I kind of saw that same thing happening where people were discussing their firms. They were talking about what they were doing. And I thought, well, hold on, there's a community here. And having experienced that community as an integral part of the growth of the accounting tech space, we knew that we had to do something about that. So we went around a year later, we did Accounting 𝗵𝗂𝗏 2025, 200 people in the room this time around. Again, amazing sponsors, amazing tech people. Taxstar were there. Thank you very much for being part of it. But we knew there was still more to it. We knew that once a year as a touch point just wasn't enough. And people, like you said, are networking ad hoc, they're meeting at random industry events by, the 𝗭𝗂𝗂𝗃, the 𝗖𝗂𝗑𝗍, whatever it might be. But there was nobody holding them together, and there's nobody kind of took that. So we decided to take that responsibility. So we launched Accounting Room off the back of the second year of Accounting Refigured. And we're almost 200 members strong in this community. And actually it creates an environment where accounting firm owners don't feel alone. They don't feel like they're doing this by themselves. They don't feel like they're having all these problems. They actually feel like they're part of a community of accountants who are facing the same problems. And we've seen it over the last few weeks with the first corporate tax deadline, right? Stuff hasn't worked, stuff has been breaking, and originally they would be sat there by themselves pulling their hair out at 11 p.m.
Mine's already gone.
Yeah. But they're now able to come into the community and say, hey guys, I've got this problem. Are you guys facing the same issue? And people are like, yep, we're doing it. Here's a solution that I found. Here's how I did this. And actually they're sharing each other's wins. And we're really hoping that this community keeps growing. We're hoping that people keep joining this community, adding value to each other. We're just the custodians of it. We're just the people kind of putting our arms around it and saying, hey, come inside and work together to grow.
Yeah, no, it's a great initiative. Anything that's popped out that's really you've been proud of in Refigured and in Accounting Room that you want to share?
I think one of the things I'm, most proud of is that the feedback we've had. We've had lots of people come back to us and say, we didn't know who you were. You guys turned up randomly out of nowhere. And we didn't know that we needed this. But we need it more than ever. Has been such a massive piece of feedback for us. The other thing has been able to get the industry bodies involved here. So the ACCA, the 𝗖𝗂𝗂𝗃 are both deeply now involved in this. And we're actually pushing them along to some extent. And we're saying, guys, the industry is moving very, very fast. And I know they're part of big global organizations, but we're kind of taking some of the pressure off them to say, we're going to push the industry forward. We just need you on board to help us do that. And they've been really supportive to do that. So yeah, couldn't have been happy with that.
Yeah, no, that's great achievement in terms of what you've been able to do. Before we wrap up, is there any final thoughts in terms of what you want to share with our listeners?
Yeah, I'm always spouting some kind of nonsense on LinkedIn. So if you like to watch me spout nonsense on LinkedIn, definitely come and talk to me there. I think my biggest thing always is that be authentic.
Yeah.
In everything you do, be you, be authentic. And the people that you want to buy from you, the people you want to serve, the people you want to work with will come to you. As soon as you start being inauthentic and you start pretending to be something else, you not only lose who you are, you lose what your brand is about, you lose what your business is about, and actually you end up in a spiral of something you don't want to be in. So yeah, always be authentic and be the entrepreneur that you want to be, and remember your why.
Thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Thank you for joining us on the Alphapreneurs podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please subscribe and give us a 5-star rating and a review. Your feedback is appreciated. For show notes and more, check the link in the description and connect to me on LinkedIn and search for Rayhan Aleem. See you in the next episode.